What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined by Rachel Mogan.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno to you as well. How are you this fine day?
This time I'm going to get it right and not stumble over my words. I'm doing well, thank you.
Oh, good. Good to hear. Good to hear. And we're glad everyone joined us here on this episode of Team Chat Podcast, a weekly video game show where we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. New episodes come out on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Central Time, and you can listen to those on podcast services around the World Wide Web, as well as watch a video version of each episode on YouTube, youtube.com/TeamChatPodcast. And you can find us on social media as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have a Discord server you can join to chat along with us throughout the week when we're not recording episodes. And also, if you're enjoying the show and want to help us build it to be bigger and better, head on over to patreon.com/TeamChatPodcast, where you can check out our reward tiers and support the show for as little as $1 a month. If you're not able to become a patron, you can still support the show by leaving a review on Apple and Google Podcasts or wherever you listen to, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would really appreciate it, and we thank you all for listening. We thank all of our patrons, too, for supporting us and helping make the show bigger and better. We love you all. But before we get into the main topic of the day, we got to do a little bit of news with our Moment with Mogan to find out the vast list of games coming out this week.
Yeah, that's a little bit of irony, of course, because like I said before, August is just, there's like this little desert of nothing coming out between like the beginning and the later half of it. So nothing's actually coming out as of this episode's air date on August 13th, but coming soon on August 20th, we have Rad. Just Rad.
Sounds awesome.
That's the shortest title I've been able to read out on this show in like a year. That comes out for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Again, that's August 20th. Also on the 20th, we have Remnant, From the Ashes. That's more in line with what we're usually getting these days. PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Also on the 20th, Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist. Awesome. For PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch, I'm not surprised. I'm both not and a little surprised that they're still making Yu-Gi-Oh games. Video games, at least. Yeah. And then coming at a little bit after that on August 22nd, we have Oninaki for PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC. Don't know what that is. Puyo Puyo for Switch. I actually don't know what version of Puyo Pop or the Puyo games or Puyo Puyo Tetris that might be, but I'm interested. That's also on August 22nd. Also for the Switch on August 22, Space Harrier. And then, of course, we're both going to play this one when it comes out, Life is Strange 2 Episode 4.
Gotta give you that sweet review of that new episode.
That comes out for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC August 22 as well. So late August is packed.
It's going to be full.
Just that beginning
Just
part.
right now,
there
this week,
there's nothing
coming
out.
Nothing going on. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
For that exhaustive list of games that we had. It was a little bit of irony that I was going with, and sarcasm when I said it was an exhaustive list. But
it's just not for this week.
Right.
But for
later
soon.
weeks. It's going to be great.
It's gonna be
so
great.
many fun games coming out this week. But again, before we move on, there were a couple more topics that we wanted to talk about real quick in some news. The first of which is it's been everywhere. It's been around the news and within the last week since the terrible shootings that occurred, that the argument again, or the misdirection, really.
It's not even an argument. It's a blatant misdirection.
It's a misdirection of video games causing violence and being the cause of these big shootings and horrific shootings that happen.
Amazingly.
In America only.
In America only. And somehow... Never mind.
So it's just, you've seen all that, so we don't really want to go and dig into a lot of it, although just obviously share our feelings on that. But it's within the last week, it's taken another step in that now that there are starting to be like, and the big thing being Walmart, where Walmart came out and they said that they were going to no longer display imagery or promotions for video games that depicted violent material. Then later in the week, it almost came out and seemed to be that it was going to be they were removing the sale of those games entirely. But then that turned out later to be a misunderstanding and an overreaction to an announcement from Walmart. But still, the fact remains
that they're stopping promoting
of violent video games.
Air quotes.
But they still are continuing to sell guns at their stores.
Nothing about their gun or ammo or accessories to gun sales. None of that is changing. None of their promotional materials for those items are changing. It's just such a perfect distillment of how wrong policy about like gun violence and where it comes from and how we can stop it is playing out, because it's like, cool. So somebody made the argument, somebody on Facebook or Twitter or something, I don't know, out in the ether, somebody made the argument of, okay, so when this doesn't stop shootings, who are you going to blame next?
Right. I mean, at that point, then they probably will pull the games from the shelves.
Probably.
Like,
They'll probably be like, oh no, it's still definitely video game violence that's the root cause of this.
let's just attack everything else before we actually attack the root cause. And so that's why I call it a misdirection.
It's just astonishing.
It's astonishing. It's insulting. And it's and it's just mind-boggling that this is the response.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's as much as we...
And the anger and the, you know, and like the tension that causes up in me is not the fact that it's one of those things. It's not the fact that video games are being attacked. It's the fact that like everybody's doing everything in their power to avoid attacking the situation that is causing all these horrific events.
As they might say in Overwatch, attack the objective, not all the auxiliary stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing and mind-boggling and infuriating.
Yeah, definitely so. But that's all we're really going to say on that. Let's move on to another game that came out that kind of came back to breathe new life into it.
Oh yeah, back from the trenches of hell.
Yeah, and that is
this.
Anthem. Anthem had its Cataclysm event, which actually I believe is over now at the time of this.
Oh, damn it, I missed it.
Release. It was only for a week.
Oh,
but
I kind of thought they were going to last longer than that.
Yeah.
Whoops.
But this event came out, and I was like, hell yes. Anthem is coming back. They've been going back to the drawing board. They've been coming out with thinking of some great ideas, and here they are. The first like big bit of news or anything that we've heard about Anthem in a very long time.
That wasn't just like really bad stuff on the side,
right? Like player base being almost gone and all this other stuff. So I jumped into Anthem, jumped into my javelin suit, my good old buddy Colossus.
Quite literally jumped into the air and then flew away.
Flew away like Iron Man to see what the new event had brought. And I gotta say, when I first started, I was like, hell yeah, this feels great. I'm having a great time. I remember how much fun this... Because really, I finished the main story. We did our review on Anthem.
Oh, yeah.
And then...
I forgot we did that.
Yeah. And then, everybody's kind of forgot about Anthem. That's the problem. And so then... this event comes out, but it's been like radio silent, and I haven't touched it since then because I really didn't, unfortunately, and that the big complaint like everybody had about Anthem is there just wasn't enough to do after Endgame to keep it exciting.
Right.
And so here they are, they had their first big event, and unfortunately, I just got to say, it's more of the same.
Is it?
Like, I first jumped into it, and it was fun because the gameplay again was fresh to me. I hadn't been just like grinding out week after week after week, getting stuff. So I had this kind of like new, and I was like, oh man, it feels so good to fly around in the javelins, which I still hold. It still feels great to fly around in the javelins.
That is still, like mechanically, it's a great game.
Oh yeah.
In terms of how it feels in your hands.
Right.
But yeah, so unfortunately, it's just more of like the typical format, I'm guessing. You
Same
go
kind of
in,
stuff.
you kill a bunch of little scrubby enemies.
To collect some things, you have some minor puzzles. The big change, though, is that it does actually introduce a new area on Bastion that you can explore. But the problem is
it snowy?
No, it's just it's more kind of like actually tropical a little bit. But the whole thing is, and the new point of this Cataclysm event is that you can go around and there are new story missions for you to explore, to complete. And then you actually have the big main Cataclysm event, which is actually a timed event where you start it, and I believe it's a 15-minute timer that starts, and you have to complete and gain more score by completing objectives, killing enemies, and whatever to increase the time limit that you have.
Oh,
so
that's
it's kind of
cool.
So it's cool in that regard, but again, it requires massive teamwork to be able to work with your fellow javelins to be able to.
And it's still just a team of 4, right? It's not like a massive thing.
Exactly, but still. I found myself, even when going into normal missions, in the normal missions of Cataclysm, I normally only got paired with one other person.
Really?
Because the player base just... Because again, I just feel like there's just not enough people to play it. The matchmaking thing would still spin for a while, and it's just like, okay. I mean, so it's like, I get it. I enjoy the gameplay of it. The story was kind of weird, too, because it doesn't give you the background cinematic of what's going on until you already complete 2 or 3 of the Cataclysm missions, and then it like jumps back and says 2 weeks earlier and shows you.
Really?
Yeah,
that is kind of really weird.
The only thing I did like, it did introduce some cool new characters. Like you do, like the main. He's in and mentioned the original Anthem storyline. Dr. Harkin. He's a Dominion Arcanist, and who was in control. Who who kind of caused the destruction of the city of Freemark and the creation of the Heart of Rage.
Oh, because he the one that like ordered them to go in and like take the thingy that did the thing.
Right. All the lore stuff.
Yeah, all the lore stuff.
So he's been established before. You actually get to meet this character and interact with him, and he's a cool character. Like, I like how they wrote him, how he's acted and all that. He's great. But it felt like you very repetitive in like mission play. And then even then, just not having that social aspect of it, which I think is what is a big selling point of a game as a service like Destiny or Division, things like that. You have to have that player base to support it, especially if you're going to try to go on it solo. And so it just, unfortunately, just really didn't reignite the fire for me and what I wanted to do. It did have a new seasonal store, is what it called, that you could get some more stuff by collecting these shards throughout gameplay. And there was an armor pack on there that I'm like, that looks pretty sick. But overall, not a huge selection of things to offer. And again, to get them, you have to grind a whole lot.
Yeah.
To get these crystals.
Pay the real money.
Or pay the real money, which I'm not going to do.
Yeah, hell no.
I don't know. I like, as much as I want to love Anthem, because the concept
is very cool.
And like you said, mechanically,
and it looks great. It's a good-looking game.
Beautiful.
The characters are at least interesting when you first encounter them, even if they take wild, wrong turns on their personality path later down the line. Owen. But yeah, it has, I feel like Anthem has the ingredients. It's just not coming out.
It just needs to go in the oven for a little longer.
The temperature on the oven is wrong or something like
definitely.
that. It's too bad.
Like, I would love in a couple months or maybe a year if it takes that long, and they'd be like, all right, Anthem 2.0, try this out, see what you get, see what you feel now. And if they drastically change some of these things, these game-breaking things, or not game-breaking, but just like the quality of life things, give you more content, give you more things to do, make it not quite so repetitive in your tasks. More enemies.
That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, just something.
Romanceables.
One
of those is easier to do than the other one, BioWare. Choose wisely.
And so it's just, I wanted it to be there. It's just still not there, and I was kind of disappointed.
And I mean, I guess the difference is who is it that does No Man's Sky?
Hello Games.
Hello Games. Hello Games does at least, and always has, seemed to have a lot of investment in No Man's Sky and in eventually fixing everything. And it's been the only thing they're doing. Whereas BioWare, part of the reason that I don't think it will ever make a comeback is BioWare does not seem to have even remotely the same level of moral investment in Anthem. I mean, it seems like even they don't have confidence in it. And
well, they say they have confidence in it,
problem.
and they say that's like they're dedicated to it and sticking to it. But they also have Dragon Age 4 coming along, or whatever the next iteration of Dragon Age is. And Dragon Age is an established series.
And there's no way they're going to take resources away from Dragon Age to put them on Anthem.
Exactly, especially if Anthem's already failing. And they are going to then need to be like, okay, we need to put all of our eggs in our Dragon Age basket, because we know we have a dedicated fan base there that we need to make happy.
Because if they fuck that one up, then they're in way more trouble.
Because then they jacked up Mass Effect Andromeda. Then there was Anthem. Yeah, they need Dragon Age to work.
They really need Dragon Age to work really badly.
And I would love I want Dragon Age to work. I love the Dragon Age games.
I'll even be okay with shittier graphics if it means that, like, they just look a little bit more normal than in Mass Effect.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, if you can scale it back a little bit, I'm fine with that. Gosh.
I mean, if they can even maintain the quality of graphics in Anthem.
Yeah, actually.
Like, even in the cutscenes and character animations.
They always look really good. Yeah.
Anthem has a lot of good stuff going for it. Like you said, the ingredients are there.
Yeah. They just have to make it better.
They're not combining right.
Yep. Anyways, so that's basically the news that's happening right now.
All that's coming out there. But now it's time to move on to our main topic, which is talking about games certain things about a game that excite us. We're going back to a good old list because it was brought to us by our good friend Brandon over on the Discord. He suggested this topic to us of doing the introductions or introductory parts of a game, like which ones got us excited. And so this is
what draws you into
exactly
a game.
What hooks the first bit, and we kind of took this to mean either like opening cinematics or even opening mission. And what really after playing we're like, oh, I'm hyped. I mean, we bought the game, we knew we were probably going to like the game already, but you get that first thing, you're just like, oh, this was a good decision.
Yeah.
So what game for you checks those boxes?
So I'm actually going to do kind of like a cheat here.
Ooh.
Because it's technically not what drew me into the game at all. because it was already part of a game I had already finished. So we recently talked about how I just this year, a couple weeks ago, really, maybe a month ago now, just finally finished the first Dishonored game. And actually finishing the first Dishonored game, which I think came out in 2014, so it's been like, what, 5 years?
It's been a while.
And I bought it 3 years ago, so it's been a while.
Games sit on the shelf,
but the point is, I finished it, so
nice.
I finally finished Dishonored, and in doing so, I finally got to the point where I was like, sweet, I can finally move on to the DLC now, which is still really old by this point, but which follows a radically different path in some ways than the main game does. So I've mentioned this before, but just a very brief background. Dishonored on its own, you play the character of Corvo, your low-key love interest / girlfriend, but it's kind of a big secret, the Empress of the city of Dunwall has been murdered by these mysterious people that you don't really know who they are. You just know that she's been killed, and her daughter Emily, the Empress's, the princess, has been kidnapped. And Emily's like 11 or whatever. But Corvo has been framed for all of this. So his entire arc is restoring his reputation and, of course, getting revenge and justice on the people that wronged him. And Jessamine and Emily, of course. So the guy that wronged him, by and large, is this dude named Dowd. Forget what his first name is.
Talked about Dowd in the random episode we had a few weeks ago.
Yes. So we're circling back to that because this gives it a little bit more context. So Dowd is basically the leader of... They're not necessarily a gang, because gang doesn't feel like the right word. It's like it's not sophisticated enough. So what's the next step up from like a gang in terms of like strategy and sophistication? I can't think of one right now.
Like mafia?
Yeah, they're kind of like their own mafia.
Crime family kind of thing?
Yeah, that's actually a lot closer to what I'm thinking of, because Dowd is essentially the leader of this circle of villains, we'll call them, and they all use basically outsider powers. So they all use these dark forces. They're kind of like occultists in a sense. So everybody knows about them. Basically, they live in the shadows, but they are bad news. So Dowd is the playable character and the air quotes protagonist of much of the DLC, which is a really nice change of pace, because then you get to play through the game basically from start to finish, kind of in isolated chunks. As Dowd. And even when Corvo, I think, actually was a silent protagonist. I don't think Corvo... God, did he talk? If he ever talked, it was very brief.
I don't think he was in the first Dishonored. I don't know about the second because I haven't played it. But
in the second, he definitely talks.
And the first one, he might not.
I don't
remember.
Really don't think that he actually speaks. You might be able to select a couple of like choices of air quotes dialogue for him, but I don't remember him talking. Dowd, though, very chatty guy. He's got a lot to say, and he tells it to you straight. So the intro that I'm doing then is Dowd's intro from his first DLC pack. So the coolest thing about this is that it starts at exactly the same point as Corvo's game starts, but literally from a visual perspective from the eyes of Dowd. So like if you were to look at it on a map, Corvo's over here. He's in a gazebo with Jessamine and Emily, and they're just talking, having a lovely day. Right before that, if you'll recall, and if you've played the game, Corvo had been literally playing hide and seek with Emily. So low-key, he's Emily's dad, but you're kind of not supposed to know that at this point. So he's like this big, gruff guy, and he's the Empress's spy master / murderer. Assassin, there we go. Yes, he's the master assassin. I couldn't think of the word. I was like, murder man?
Sounds so evil. And I was like, he's supposed to be the hero.
Well, he is pretty evil, though. Anyway,
True.
So he's just been having a lovely time with his low-key, air quotes, wife and daughter, and then out of nowhere comes Dowd and his minions, and they just stab her right through the middle.
Oh, no.
So you play that same scene out from Dowd's point of view.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And you hear his internal narration over the scene, because he's talking about, like, I've killed so many people before. I've murdered thousands, probably, all nobles. I've watched the life drain from their faces. And yet no one has stayed with me and haunted me like killing Empress Jessamine. And like it plays through it and he stabs her like in slow motion, just straight through her torso. And the entire scene is very dramatically posed. And like you see Corvo get knocked out and then he grabs Emily and takes her away. But the whole thing is just like, he's basically going over the rooftops to where the gazebo is, where like Corvo and Emily and the Empress are, and like it's him and all of his men. You see them come out of nowhere because they've got their teleportation powers from the outside, or like they're sneaking along the rooftops, and you're like, oh my god, it's like a mission on a move. It's really cool to see. And then they all teleport into the gazebo and the action begins, and you're like, oh my god, this is awesome. So you're not really playing that part. It is more of an opening cinematic, but it does such an excellent job of reframing the game, just taking a scene that had already happened, but making it new and fresh just by putting it on this different perspective. And after that, the game is all about Dowd, of course, because it's the DLC just for him. But that opening scene, it just like sets the tone and it sets the pace because, yeah, you're supposed to be the biggest, baddest, basically like wizard crime lord in all of Dunwall. But Dowd has all of this like inner turmoil about what it's finally coming back to him. Like what he's done, he's finally like, oh shit, have I finally gone too far? And even the outsider, like after this opening cinematic happens, like you get one of those kind of otherworldly scenes where you're like in the realm of the outsider and it's very weird and blue and everything's floating. And the outsider comes to Dowd and he's like, wow, dang, dude, that seems a little extreme even for you. He doesn't say it that way, but that's the gist. And Dowd is like, maybe I shouldn't have killed her. So it does such an amazing job of like sowing doubt from within Dowd himself. And you're like, oh, he's a crime lord on the decline. Because remember, depending on how you play the game, Corvo may or may not have killed Dowd.
Right.
You have the option. You can kill him or you can just send him a message and basically scare him, I guess, out of criming, question mark?
That doesn't seem harsh enough.
Doesn't seem harsh enough. I didn't kill him. I'd scare him. Whatever. Anyways, the point is that it just gives you so much additional character background, much of which you get from that opening scene. Like you already get like the atmosphere is so well done just from that one opener of going over the rooftops, blinking into it's called your blink, isn't it?
Yeah.
Blinking into the gazebo and then doing some murder and then getting out of there and you're like, oh shit, was that actually a good idea?
Yeah.
I wish I'd had time to rethink that. So that's my first pick.
Nice. That's a good one.
Good old Dowd.
That's a nice one. That is a really cool how it does, like you said, reframes the original game.
It was so
and gives you a
cool
new
to see
perspective.
because, like, from Dowd's eyes, you can literally see, like, Corvo and Emily and all of them, like, in the map that you've been on before as Corvo. And it's just like, oh, man, you can get onto this roof?
Nice.
Could I have done that as Corvo? No, because at the time you didn't have your powers. But
That's true. The outside
if
had
you had
visited
been
you yet. Because it doesn't happen. It's right after the Empress is killed is when the outsider like shows up and he's like, hey, man,
Correct.
you're going to need some help.
because
Here are all my powers.
Corvo doesn't necessarily get... No, wait. It doesn't happen immediately.
There's like another mission or like a cinematic or something or years
wait,
pass?
when you're Corvo, you wake up in prison. I'm pretty
Yes.
sure is how it happens. And you have to escape from that prison, I think, without powers.
I agree.
And then when
I think
you
that sounds
escape
right.
the prison, I think he like jumps off a bridge or something and maybe into the river because then I think that's where Sam finds him.
Right.
So I think it's while you're unconscious from that jump. You're basically
You're
on,
right.
on
You're
the
right.
brink
You're
of
right.
death.
That sounds right.
I think that's when the outsider shows up and he's like, so, heard you been murdering a bunch of people in a prison.
Record scratch. So you're probably wondering how you got here,
So
right?
you probably reckon that's exactly how it is.
Well, my first pick then is a cinematic of a game, and to be fair, a game I have not played, but one that still fills me with excitement every single time I watch it. I've watched this cinematic.
Is it The Last of Us 2?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's actually not.
Wait, is it a game that hasn't come out yet?
No.
Oh,
No.
it's just a game you haven't played?
Just haven't played it yet. It's in the backlog because so it's the opening cinematic for The Witcher 2: Assassins of Kings.
Oh, okay.
So because I have all three Witcher games, my original plan was to play through all three of them in order, and I've already decided with how long it's taking me to play through Witcher 3. That's not going to happen. I know, exactly. It's exactly what it is. So I know it's not going to happen in any amount of time. Like, and so it'll be like I might just jump in and start it for a little bit, play it here or there. But I've still like gone and like I have started the original Witcher and played through some of it. Have not touched Assassins of Kings yet. But the opening cinematic for Assassins of Kings, actually all the opening cinematics for the Witcher games are great. Or any trailer, anything like that they put on. The one for the original where he hunts a Striga is so good. But in Witcher 2, how it starts is it's just on a boat. Or you're on these two boats really, and it's King Foltest is on this boat, and he's being entertained by court jesters. There's like a mage or a wizard. I'm not actually totally sure which or if they call them sorcerer in the Witcher world, because I know like Yennefer is a sorceress, but I don't know if I don't remember now if they call them
Grand Vizier.
We'll go with that.
That's my favorite title.
But so you're on this boat and you're seeing the king, and he's being entertained by his court jesters, and you can see, and like they're even doing things like lighting farts on fire, different stuff like this. The king is loving it. He's having a great time.
Of course, he would love that.
The wizard, Grand Vizier, sorcerer is just like, oh god, what is happening? And then it has
a typical Jafar.
And then it shows a archer, showing off his skills. They throw a whole bunch of clay pots in the air. He shoots them all out. It's really impressive.
Neat.
Just this, they're going on this journey. The king is being entertained. But
so
while all this is going on,
Never mind, you told me.
And while all this is going on, you see a figure crawl up out of the river onto the boat.
Oh, that's extreme. I already like this.
It's really good. And so he climbs onto this boat, hides. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this character becomes a bigger deal later on in the game. At this point, you don't know who he is. It just jumps onto the boat, kind of hides, and he's this big hulking dude. Like he's big, muscular. So it's like, you're able to hide, cool, and climb up the side of this boat all quiet like without no one seeing you. Good on you. You're a great assassin. And so he climbs onto this boat, chills, hides for a second, like watches what's going on, because now there are these two dudes boxing for the king's entertainment and all this.
God, this sounds like a raging party.
It is on a boat. It sounds great.
Dang, it sounds awesome.
One that the Lonely Island would want to be on. And so they're going on. They're having all this going on. But then the guy who climbed onto the boat pulls this vial, this tiny little vial from his vest, pops the cork off of it, or no, he doesn't even do that. He just keeps it and then just throws it from his hiding spot. And then it kind of everything goes in slow motion as the camera like zooms on this vial flying through the air slowly.
Very cool.
No one else
shot.
notices what's going on really, except for the mage. And he kind of gets up out of his chair. Is like, what am I
Wait, so that's the Grand
here?
Vizier?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I'm just gonna call him.
Okay.
And so he like sees it, and you see him like get up, and he's like slowly, inquisitively like looking in the air, like, what is that? But then it hits. This vial hits the mast of the ship and immediately blows out this huge explosion of basically just ice and turns everything it touches into ice. The whole boat becomes ice. The two dudes fighting become ice statues. Everyone becomes ice as this wave of this explosion comes out of the vial after it made contact with the mast. The mage throws up like this fire barrier basically to protect the king. And this archer, the archer from before, he gets lucky there too.
Lucky bastard.
But literally, and just freezes it and protects himself and the king and all those other people from this blast. And they're all just like, oh shit, like what happened? Like they're just like, what's going on? And obviously looking for whoever
the perpetrator.
Threw the vial. Exactly. And so then, and there's this brief moment of quiet as they're all looking, and then there's a crack because now this boat, all ice, is now beginning to disintegrate. And once this boat starts falling apart and collapsing, the assassin pulls knives from his belt and takes off just sprinting, full speed. All this part is in slow motion still. And he just starts sprinting at the king, just determined. The archer like stands up and tries to shoot at him all the while. And of course, but while all this is going, the ice, the ship, and this is what makes it so cool, is because the ship is literally disintegrating into tiny splinters. It shows like the fighters who are also ice, they start just like exploding into splinters because literally this world is falling apart around them, but this assassin is still just dead sprinting at this while all this is going on. The archer tries to shoot at him and shoot a couple arrows, but the assassin, literally one of them, just simply spins out of the way and just lets this arrow fly by.
Oh, that's very stylish.
It's so cool.
What a cool guy.
He just runs up, just slices that archer open, no problem at all.
Oh my God.
The mage then tries to do things.
What a bummer to live through the first thing,
right?
and then immediately
immediately just get knifed and just be like, damn it. And then the mage tries to put up a fight, throws some firebolts and stuff like that at him. Doesn't matter. Just gets taken out. And then the king, who you can kind of tell is obviously kind of timid, cowardly, really is how I would describe him. He tries to like crawl away, but the assassin just grabs him and just like viciously just hacks his head off and ties his head to his belt and jumps off the boat, swims away. All the while, this other boat that was with them on the side just like is just now starting to turn to see what the hell's happening.
Oh,
and
my
it just
God.
sets up this. I think it was just this combination of showing such a brutal, vicious assassination, sets up the name, and obviously then ties into and gives credence to where this game is going with the name Assassins of Kings. And it just immediately just enters in. And for it to not even focus on Geralt is, I think, another one of the powerful choices of having this be the opening cinematic is it really just further expands. And it's just one of those things. I haven't played the game, but it's that cinematic is the one that I'm just like, makes me more fall in love with the world of The Witcher.
I haven't even seen the cinematic.
Oh, I gotta show it to you.
I'm really invested
It's
now.
so good.
I gotta know what
I'll show it
happens.
to you after we're done because
oh my gosh.
it's ridiculously good. And it's like almost 5 minutes long. Like it's a hefty.
What a banger of an
cinematic.
opening cinematic.
I know. And so it's just one that just further solidifies, even though, like I've said, it's going to take me forever to play through the Witcher games. But it's one of those things that like it sold me on it. Combine that with the opening cinematic of the first Witcher game and then playing Witcher 3 Wild Hunt just continues to build how awesome of a world The Witcher is.
Sounds so rad.
It's so cool.
Wait, so what's the assassin's name? Dowd?
No, it's not Dowd.
Is that a side job?
Because I believe, again, I could be completely wrong because like I said, I haven't played the game, but I believe I've run into him in The Witcher 3, and his name is Otho or Lotho, maybe something like that. But I'll look it up as you're going into your next one. But really, though, it was incredible. What are you?
Put this elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
I have nowhere to put it.
You were signaling something else. I was like, I don't know what she wants me to do with it.
It's a gift for you, my friend.
Thank you. But that was my first pick because just of how awesome. And it's one of those you get goosebumps watching it.
Oh,
I
got goosebumps and I haven't even seen it yet.
Oh, just wait till you see it.
What an excellent.
It's so good.
You have painted quite a picture with words, good sir.
Thank you. So really quick, before we do jump to your second game, it's Letho. I looked it up. Letho the Kingslayer is the guy's name.
When he eventually gets his own movie, I hope they call it Letho Weapon.
Oh my God.
Yes! I got one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Got my obligatory pun for the
So
day.
that banger of a pun.
That banger of a pun.
What's your second game on this list?
Oh, Mel Gibson could play him? Are you kidding me?
No.
That would be amazing. He's very old by now. As if that's the only problem. Anyways, the point is, so my next two are related, but they're both really good examples of how even within the same franchise, opening sequences or opening cinematics, or one of them may actually be the trailer, I'm actually not sure to be quite honest, can have such different approaches. So the first one I'm going to talk about is our old pal, and by our I mean my, because you've never played these games, Final Fantasy VIII.
Oh yeah, I know everything about that game.
Yeah, you know everything about that game, surely. So Final Fantasy VIII, for those of you that don't know, actually you may have been exposed to it for the first time, even if you've never played a Final Fantasy game, because they did a big trailer reveal for its remake / remaster reboot. I think it's just a more modern version of it, that they just did at E3 this year, because they're finally giving like a facelift to Final Fantasy VIII, which is amazing. It's a very divisive Final Fantasy game. Plenty of people hate it. I always really liked it. And a big part of the reason that I liked it was it's got style for days. And it was a really radical departure in its stylings from the previous Final Fantasy games. And in terms of graphic jumps from Final Fantasy VII to Final Fantasy VIII, that crap was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, in the game itself and in the actual gameplay, it was just like a minor step up because it was like, oh, they look a little bit less polygonal. They look a little bit more like actual humans now. That's exciting.
Right.
But the cinematics, of which there are many in Final Fantasy VIII, were amazing. Like, you were watching them and you were like, the future is now. Because remember, this was PlayStation 1 still. Final Fantasy VII had come out for the PS1, followed shortly by Final Fantasy VIII. And it was just radically impressive at the time. So the opening sequence then, it's primarily amazing. Because of the cinematic quality, yes. The graphical quality. But more so than that, the soundtrack is what makes it. So the soundtrack for this one is, of course, I have to look it up real quick because if I say it wrong, Brandon will be very mad at me. Because I know it, but also I'm certain that I can say it wrong. Okay, so I'm going to say it. Don't make fun of me. It's Fithos Lusek Wekos Vinosek. Do you want
Sounds
me to,
right to
Do you
me.
want me to play you a little bit of the track?
Sure.
Just so that you can hear it? You've heard it before for sure.
Let me see. Let me hear a little bit of this. Hold it close to your mic real quick so we can hear this. Oh, yeah. I've heard this.
Exactly. So that's what you're getting when this trailer starts up. But if I'm not mistaken, it actually begins. The music hasn't even started up quite yet. And you appear to be looking at just like a very calm beach. Because like if you're standing like right at the water's edge and it's in first person, that's what you would see. You've like got a little line of sand, beautiful crystal clear blue ocean, very calm waves lapping at the shore. And you're like, are we on a vacation retreat in Hawaii? Where are we right now? And then the music kind of starts to kick in and you're like, oh my God, what's happening?
I anticipate now good things are not coming my way.
Good things are not coming my way. And then as the music starts up, you kind of go into this like flying, bodiless, I guess, I don't really know how to phrase it. Just the scene starts coming at you and the landscape starts to change. So first you're over the ocean and then eventually that ocean turns into a desert, like that rocky, cracked desert of not sand, but it's just scorched earth. And you're like, where'd all the water go? Oh no. And over all of this are like not random, but just, when you don't have context for them, they seem random. It's like very PowerPoint of just like white words kind of fading in and out of the screen. And I forget what they actually say. It's like, I'll be waiting for you or something. I don't remember the words. That's not the important part. But as the scene continues to fly forward, you eventually get from the desert into like a field of flowers, like a gorgeous field of very vibrant, blooming wildflowers, and like flowers are spinning around in the air, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's beautiful. And then the scene kind of starts to circle in on a female figure with long black hair and like a beautiful blue floor-length, super cool vest. Nice. I don't really know what you would call it. It looks awesome. And that figure is Renoa, who you later encounter in the game, and she's really one of the key figures from Final Fantasy VIII. But as the camera circles in on her, she opens up her hand, and one of the petals falls into her hand, and she closes it and opens it back up, and then it's a beautiful white feather, and you're like, oh, gasp. And I don't actually think that she has powers like that in the game. Maybe. I forget. But anyway, you're like, oh, what's going on? And then the feather like floats away and the camera follows the feather up into the stratosphere and then it flies into the sky and then the sky turns to storm clouds. And then there's a bolt of lightning and where the feather like flew up into the clouds, down comes a spinning gun blade. Ooh. And it slams into the earth and like strikes down and you're like, oh, what's happening now? That's and cool. Then the scene is immediately like shifted into this totally different scene of the two of the main, I'm holding up 4 fingers, but you're going to have to trust me that's 2. 2 of the game's main protagonists and antagonists. There's more than just the 2 of them, of course, but they are the key conflict of Final Fantasy VIII. It's Cypher. You can tell he's a douchebag because he's got what I call Draco Malfoy hair. Okay. Like the slicked back, very blonde platinum hair. He totally looks like Malfoy now that I think about it. But he came first. So it's Cypher facing off against, of course, the protagonist of the game, Squall Leonhardt. So he's got the very Final Fantasy, like, spiky anime brown hair. And he's got, like, his cool kid, like, cropped leather jacket with, like, the white fur around the collar. And you're like, who the crap is this? awesome guy. And they're like just going at it. So, of course, they've got gun blades, which are like, yeah, they're swords, but they're also guns.
Great combination.
Yeah, fantastic imagery. So they're just slashing away at each other. And even though the track is still playing of Fithos Lusa, you can very much hear the clash of their swords, which is very dramatic. And you can like hear lightning and thunder in the background. So they're slashing away at each other, and interspersed between their fight, you get additional scenes, which again, at the time, you have no context for, of Renoa kind of like off on her own, sort of low-key facing off / encountering a woman whose face you don't recognize. And she was actually like, when the lightning struck and the sword strikes into the ground, her image is briefly in the clouds as like one of those very Mufasa-like ghostly images of the actual villain, Ultimacia. So she's like this next level sorceress, like world-ending, time-warping kind of person, enchantress. She might actually be called an enchantress in the game, I can't remember. But you see her, and her imagery is wild because she's got like a very, very villain-esque, just long black dress with this wild headdress and this insane thing on her back that like is an awesome veil / train. And you're like, I don't know who you are, but I love you and I would join your cause. I don't know what villainry you're up to, but I'm all about that. Or at least that was my response.
Yeah.
But Renault is kind of there and you're like, okay, so what's happening here in the background? It's very mysterious. You don't really understand what's happening. And then of course you flash back to the fight between Cypher and Squall. And Cypher finally gets a killer hit in onto Squall, slashes like his face right from kind of his forehead down over his nose. And when you're actually playing Final Fantasy VIII, Squall starts with that scar like right over his face. So these two people have obviously been enemies and or frenemies since the beginning. So it just does an amazing job of like setting the stage, showing you really the key characters of the game. So yes, there are other people, but none of them are present. There's, of course, it's a Final Fantasy game. You get many other party members as the game goes on. None of them are present in the opening. It's just you've got your two main protagonists, Squall and Renoa, versus your two main antagonists, Cypher and Ultimacia.
Right.
It distills everything that you need to know about the game without any context right off the bat.
Nice.
So all you've got is mystery and the world's greatest opening soundtrack for any game ever. And that's where you start. And you're like, oh my God.
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
So even though there's no exploding ice, it's still pretty amazing.
Nice.
And that's Final Fantasy VIII.
There you have it. So my second game is one that I've talked about a lot. And the more I talk, I keep having these recurrences to go back to it and everything. I'm keep making me think, man, I should really play this game again, because does it sit higher in my like ranking of games than I really remember it? But it's Dante's Inferno.
Ooh.
So, you know, I've talked about this one in like some of the creatures and everything that you fight and down in the circles of hell, and we've talked about some of the music and things like that.
The babies?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, it's pretty twisted. The game itself is pretty twisted. But so how it begins is just you see, you know, it comes out the white text being like, you know, giving a little brief history of the Crusades, because it kicks off actually while you're on the Crusades, while Dante's on the Crusades, and you're actually during the siege of the city of Acre. And you've been in prison there for a while, or not, you haven't been in prison there for a while. You've been holding the city for a while. You've had these prisoners there in the city, and finally they escape and throughout this siege, and so you have to fight them. But then while you're fighting through the city, which these are a bunch of people, again, it's not supposed to be a like I am the hero of this moment. You're definitely not supposed to feel that way, because it's definitely like you're slashing through them all pretty easily, because they've been prisoners. They've been in cells for a while. They're not in fighting shape. Exactly. And so you're going on, you're doing all this, but what is interesting about the cinematic, and it's kind of a mix of a cinematic and playable level, because how it begins is it opens up on the Italian countryside, because it's at night. It's post the Crusades. Dante has returned home, and he's in the woods, and it shows him sewing that fabric cross onto his chest, like into his skin, because it's like a thing of atonement for him, and you grow to understand that more as you play through the game of why this is. But it also is used as a storytelling tapestry, basically. So when it starts with Dante like sewing this onto his skin, and he sews it on, and it makes him like, and he screams in pain and all this, and it's very like, oh, that's unsettling.
Cringy.
And then it zooms it like shows him, and he's like recovering from doing the last stitch kind of thing, and then it zooms in on the cross tapestry, and then it shows the fight of Crusaders battling against Saladin's forces. And it's very much like, have you seen the Bayeux tapestry that shows the
Bayeux tapestry
or Bayeux tapestry that shows the Battle of Hastings in 1066 when William the Conqueror came and took over England from this?
Maybe spell Bayeux.
It's I could be saying it completely wrong. Bayeaux. I could be saying that very wrong.
Oh yeah, Bayeux, Bayeux.
Yeah,
that's how I would say
Bayeux
that.
tapestry.
Yes, this
Okay.
looks vaguely familiar, but obviously I don't know anything
So it's a very
about
old medieval art style.
Yes.
And so that is what the first little bit of the cinematic is showing these the forces fighting each other. But then it had this really imagery, convenient, ironically enough, since it was developed by Visceral Games, but this visceral imagery of like whenever someone would be killed in this, they like immediately like disintegrate to bone kind of thing. It's very graphic and gory and everything too. But you get into this, you're fighting through, and it's this, but the animation style of the cinematic moves from that then into more of like a graphic novel, comic booky type.
Really?
Not, but more with just like very thick lines. Because there was also a animated full movie that went along with this. That's actually more of like a anime style
Really?
movie. Yeah, it's Dante's Inferno, the animated epic. It's like an hour and a half long.
Oh my god!
I've actually watched it.
We gotta watch that. That sounds awesome.
Because it's really cool. Because as you descend into the different circles of hell in the game, the animation style changes. So it kind of like mirrors the animated epic. But so the art style of it is just really great too. But once you move on and battle the first wave of the escaped prisoners and everything, you move into this open courtyard, and then you're snuck up on by by someone who then stabs you right into the middle of the back.
Oh my gosh!
And you're like, oh, well, all right then. This is interesting because this is the supposed hero of this game, and he's got a knife in between his shoulder blades in the first 3 minutes. Like that, I feel like you don't recover from that very well. But then, so he's staggering from that. He's like, no, like, what? No, kind of thing. Death rises from the ground.
Ooh, like the personification of
Yes,
death?
the
Like
personification
with
of
the
death.
bony skeletal face and like the
but
cloak?
he's got like these long, like bony horns that like hang down behind him. He's got this massive scythe. Thank you. It was like escaping me for a minute there. And so, right at this point, you're using like a pole arm battle axe kind of thing is what Dante's using. And so then he basically comes up and says, "Hey, man, you're damned to hell for all your sins." And as you go on,
Does
through
he
the
say
game
it
later,
exactly that way? Like he points
that.
at him and
He's
he goes,
like,
"Hey, man."
You're done fucked up.
But
No,
so funny.
he doesn't do it like that. He obviously says it in a way more classical fashion and menacing way. But basically just like, Dante, you're damned to hell for your sins. And Dante's like, wait, but the bishop told us that by doing these crusades, obviously some of the big fucked up part of the crusades is that everyone was told that they would be absolved from all sins that they did if they did these crusades.
You idiots.
Great propaganda, you know
Great
what I mean?
propaganda.
And so Dante's like, wait, whoa. Like, what did I do? It comes out
What
later.
did I do?
It comes out later, not only from the massive, the mass terribleness that was brought on by the Crusades, but he winds up cheating on his fiancée Beatrice with someone.
That's the actual reason he goes to hell.
And then and a few other things. But basically, he just felt like he could do anything, so he did anything. And so here's Death telling him, "Nah, man, you're going to hell, and your sins are also condemned. Condemned to others." Like basically, you've done so bad. Like other people around you are also going to suffer terrible fates.
Oh God!
And so
okay,
he's
that
like,
seems like an unfair deal.
And so he's like, no, I was promised, and I will not let other people suffer because of what the other people that I love suffer because of what I've done. So I'm going to redeem myself. And so he basically like squares up against Death, and it's like, let's do this. And Death's like, you're dumb, mortal. Basically, you wind up beating Death's ass, and then that's where you get your main weapon of the game. The rest of the game, you play with Death's scythe.
Oh right.
And it's like this. It looks, the handle of it, the staff of it looks like a spine.
Like an S, right? It's
No. It's straight, but it's bone.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
It's like someone like pulled the spine out of a huge creature and was like, this is the handle of this weapon. And it's got like skulls up on the top and it hinges though. So like the blade can stick straight out, or it can also be bent at an angle like a typical scythe thing. And so it's got like skulls on either side of the hinge, basically.
Very cool.
Very menacing weapon.
God, that's a cool weapon.
So Dante then, he defeats death, but then, and why this is such a cool, or like, not a cool, but it introduces the game and got me excited for the game, is because it kind of then, this is where you get the glimpses of what you're going to experience in the rest of the game, because Dante takes the scythe, stabs it basically into Death's chest, raises up and like flips him over with it, but then just basically just halves Death and, vertically.
But he's
cuts him in half.
he's only a skeleton, right?
I mean, but he's like a demon, so there's more to him. He's just very
gotcha.
skeletal in his look, but straight up like halves him. And then there's this massive explosion and everything, and then it cuts back to Dante being in Italy, where he then is back to his homestead, goes in, sees his father dead, murdered, so in there, and then he goes on the backyard and sees his betrothed Beatrice also dead in the backyard, and then when he is mourning her soul appears to him, only for then to be taken to hell by Lucifer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Thus, the impetus why you have to go into the circles of hell.
I see.
And that's the journey of this game, is Dante realizing, oh yes, I did terrible things, but that doesn't mean Beatrice needs to suffer. So that's this whole like redemption of him going through hell.
Very Orpheus.
Yeah. And so it just really sets up the game. And plus, so this is what I mean. Like, I've talked about this game probably 3-4 times throughout this show. So I really need to replay the whole.
Every time I learn new things.
Right,
yeah.
It's a different facet of the game. And so I really need to go back and play this game in its entirety, because I did really enjoy the game. But I just remember it really is. I mentioned before, being developed by Visceral Games was like the best choice, because that's exactly like what I would use to describe this game.
What year did that game come out? It's pretty old by now, isn't it?
It's probably like 10 years old.
Oh my gosh. It's like, I realize that probably doesn't sound that old in the grand scope of things, but like in gaming years, that's pretty old.
I know I played it when I moved here. When I didn't...
You've lived here for 10 years, bro?
I have, actually, this year.
Oh my gosh.
2010. So it's 9 years old.
Okay.
On
its birthday next year, that's when you should replay
it then. Yeah. Because, I mean...
Happy birthday.
As I remembered it was a really fun game. I mean, it plays very similarly to the earlier God of War games, which I also really enjoy. But I appreciate I really enjoy... I can't think of the right word, but it's basically the religious mythology of it.
The theology?
I mean, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But it's more but just like this, the expounding on of what the world of what hell is and all that stuff. So that's why I call it, and all that. And especially because it's based off of early Catholicism and all that stuff like that.
It's video games aren't educational.
I mean,
are you kidding me?
It is. It's terrifying and it's gross, but it's like it's a great visual representative of what.
Well, hell is supposed to be terrifying and gross.
Well, exactly, and that's just what I think. One of the strong. They capitalized on that imagery of the game. They very well. Yes, they knew what they were doing. But that is why that is my second choice in one of some of my favorite game intros.
Good sir. So my next one then is also from the Final Fantasy series, but a very different game.
Oh,
and another one that is very controversial in the broader context of Final Fantasy. It's Final Fantasy X, not 10-2, not 10-2, whatever it's next, because there was a third one after that, 10-2 Remix or something, 10 2.0. I forget.
There are so many points.
Anyways, it doesn't matter. So Final Fantasy X came out quite a few years after Final Fantasy VIII did. And again, it reset, like it set a whole new conversation over what like graphic cinematics in video gaming, the heights that they could reach and how amazing they could be. Because again, when you saw like the trailer for Final Fantasy X or any of the cinematics that are in the game, your like blood came out of your eyes and you like couldn't handle how amazing it was, and you went insane for a little while, and then when you came back to Earth you were like, I've got to play that game. But the actual in-game opener is a little different. So when the game actually starts up, it's technically not the opening, air quotes, cinematic. It much more is the opening intro. So when the game actually boots up and you're looking at it for the first time, you get, first of all, a completely radically different soundtrack. So in contrast to Final Fantasy VIII's grandiose, multi-chorus, orchestral theme of Phythos, blah, 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 blah. This one is very simply a solo piano theme. It's slow, it's somber, it sounds very, not necessarily sad, but bittersweet. Mm-hmm. Like, you get the feeling that, like, I don't really know how to place it. It's just, you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. And when the scene kind of comes into view, you can see kind of, again, struck into the earth, 3 weapons. And if I'm not mistaken, it's Yuna's staff, Titus's ocean sword, I forget what it's actually called, like his sword stabbed into the ground, and maybe Wakka's blitzball, but they're kind of all fanned out in this triad, like all in the earth together, and it's like very iconic once you get more context for that, obviously. But then the scene kind of pans to a different perspective, and it's sunset, I'm pretty sure, and it kind of repivots to a bunch of people surrounding a campfire. And it's really the entire crew of Final Fantasy X. It's Kumari, it's Lulu, it's Wakka, it's Riku, and they're all chilling around this campfire. But none of them are, like, looking at each other. There's no dialogue. They're all just kind of sitting there, again, looking at the ground, very, like, you can tell that they're all, each of them, internally reflecting on something. Mm-hmm. So they're all together around this fire, but they're clearly all worlds apart from each other. And Titus and Yuna are there, of course. And some people say Titus, and that's stupid. So I'm gonna call him Titus because it's way stupid. You're wrong, and that's stupid. Anyway, so Titus is also sitting around the fire, and without any words, he just kind of slowly gets up and he walks away from the circle, and on his way out of the circle, he passes by Yuna, and he kind of like, just very slowly, again, no words, puts a hand on her shoulder, kind of like in like this motion of like, hey, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really say anything in return, but she kind of like looks at him and she's like, not even really with a smile. Again, it's a very somber scene.
Just an acknowledgement.
Just an acknowledgement of like this no words connection of, yeah, we're going to do whatever it is that they're about to do. So as he's walking away from the circle, Titus kind of ascends this little like cliff. It's not even like a big one. He just kind of goes up this little hill, and he's standing there and he's looking out over a scene. And once you actually are able to really view where they are, you realize they are in the ruins of what was apparently a city at one point. Mm-hmm. You can see it out in the distance. There's rock, really just rock and water, and the city out in the water. And you're like, wonder what that is. What's going on over there? And Titus, he doesn't actually say it, but the only 2 lines you get out of him at this point are like his internal monologue, and he says, "Listen to my story. This may be our last chance." And it's like, what do you mean our last chance?
Immediately very high stakes.
Immediately, like high stakes right off the bat. And like, again, it's just, the tone is so, again, somber really is the word that I'm looking for there. The gravity is there, and you're like, okay, whatever they're about to do, they mean business, and it's definitely not going to be good. And what I love about this scene in particular, in comparison to Final Fantasy VIII, is the radical difference of, yes, they're both the same, air quotes, series, but the 2 different styles. Final Fantasy VIII focuses on really just the 4 core people, you could argue, of Final Fantasy VIII, the 2 villains and the 2 protagonists. Whereas Final Fantasy X's opening theme, very low-key, very minimalistic, and it shows you all of the characters all at once, and you eventually realize that scene happens at the very end of the game, like when you're just about to go into the game's true final phase.
Yeah.
So you get like very beginning, all mystery. You have no idea what's going on, but it's very like it's very bombastic in Final Fantasy VIII. Flash to Final Fantasy X. You again have no idea what's going on, but you know that shit has already gone bad.
Right.
And you're like, oh man, what's going to happen next? And the two different stylings of them, I think, show the range that Final Fantasy is capable of. And it just sets the tone for what is ultimately an amazing game that more people should play because it really is good. But again, super controversial, so whatever. Anyways, that's Final Fantasy X.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good pick. So my last one comes from one of my favorite games. And this one is actually a level, not a cinematic or anything like that. And it is Crew Expendable from Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Crew Expendable?
Crew Expendable. And actually, technically, it's not the first mission. The first mission is called FNG. Fucking new guy.
Effigy?
FNG. F.N.G. Because you're a new recruit, you show up to the special training forces.
Oh, gotcha.
And they call you the fucking new guy. And so
Gotcha.
the mission's called FNG. And so basically that one though, I don't count it because it's basically the tutorial. You run through like a training course. That's prepping you. It's modeled after though it's what they're using as the training course for this next mission, the actual first mission of the game Crew Expendable, which is where, and it's a very iconic mission in the Call of Duty series because it takes place, it's a stormy night, you're in a helicopter flying open across the sea in this storm trying to get to a cargo ship that you're going to land on and infiltrate and take over to try to get its cargo because it's rumored there's a weapon of some kind on it.
Gotcha.
And so you're chilling. It sets up immediately how just badass of a character Captain Price is because he's sitting there in the chopper with you, just smoking a cigar, and he's got his night vision goggles like up on top, resting on top of his head, and he just looks chill. You know, you're just like, this man, I'd follow him, and I'm going to. And so basically what it is, though, is it starts off and you just rappel down onto the ship. You go through on top of the ship. You take out a few enemies here and there. But the action doesn't really start until you get into the ship. Because at this point, like you're sneaking up. You're taking out some guys as they're resting and just trying to be as quiet as you can. But then it kind of all goes to shit when you get into the ship because then they discover you and you get into a lot of massive firefights. But it was really cool for being one of the first Call of Duty games that I really played. Just getting and how much of a big step it was from. I take that back. It wasn't one of the first, but still, it was the first in this new direction. So it was for a lot of people playing it because it had been before all in the World War, and now here we are in modern times. And so getting to experience one of the first things that happens is you get flashbanged and everything, and kind of blinded and disoriented. You're like, whoa, this is weird, and everything, but it's all in very tight corners because you're in the corridors of the ship. So you're up on gangplanks and walkways, and they're all down below and everything. And there's cargo bins everywhere blocking things, and it's just a very chaotic atmosphere to be fighting in. Plus, it's also fairly dark because it's raining, and it's stormy, and all this. But then you bust through, you get through everybody, you find the weapon, and you're like, sweet.
Is it friendship?
No, it's not friendship. Unfortunately, it's a nuclear device.
Oh.
And you're like, this is
bad.
And then it's on the way, to the big bads of the game. And so you're like, well, we've obviously got to get this out. So you radio back, and be like, all right, we found the weapon. We're ready for extract. Come get us. But then 2 jets come out of nowhere, blow a hole in the side of this boat, knocks everybody all around, and then it's one of the most iconic parts of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. You get knocked down to the ground, and you're the new guy. So everybody else is still they're disoriented, but they're getting up, they're getting going, and you're kind of like, oh, what? Captain Price bends over, picks you up, and of course it's first person, so he's just right in your face, and he's just like, get on your feet, and then yells, we are leaving, and then you take off, and then you basically have to bust ass out of this ship because it's sinking.
Oh god!
So
you and sinking ships.
I got a theme today, and so coincidentally enough, in the opening of Dante's Inferno, a burning ship crashes into the city and allows you to get to the next part of the level. So there you go.
You are obsessed with boats.
I just want to be a sailor.
Apparently.
But anyway, so you're this boat at this point. It's fallen to the side. It's water starting to rush in. It's starting to fall apart. So even as you're walking on these high walkways and catwalks on this boat, they start detaching from the side and falling.
God.
So you're trying to run and stay moving quickly, but you're getting knocked to your feet. You're getting knocked around. And it was just such an intense few seconds of trying to run out of the ship. And if you fall enough behind, then obviously you're going to die.
Right.
But also Captain Price and the other soldiers, they're busting ass getting out of there too. So you're like trying to, and there's
Keep
turns. There, they'll take a turn, and then you'll turn that turn and be like, oh, where'd they go? And then you have to like figure out where they're going. So it's a very hectic. From what it turned into be like, okay, this is all good, to immediately becoming hectic. Just gets the adrenaline flowing. You're like, oh my god, what is going on? What's going to be the rest of this game? Like it's so just like immediate adrenaline. And you get out, you get to the back of the ship, and the chopper that brought you there before, it's one of those like dual rotor Chinook helicopters that has the opening bay from the back.
Yeah, everybody knows what those are.
So I'm explaining it. It opens from the back and everything, and the pilot like has it backed up to the ship, but as it's going down, so you're running up the ship as it's inclining Titanic style, and you're running up it, and then you're the last one there, and you have to jump from the ship to the helicopter. And it's one of those things you only make it like halfway onto the helicopter, and you start sliding off the thing. You see your arms like trying to grab something. Price runs up and he just goes, gotcha, and grabs on and just pulls you in, and you're just like, I feel safe in your arms.
When is Call of Duty gonna stop being cowards and let you romance Captain Price?
I mean, he's being brought back for the Modern Warfare reboot coming out in October.
Everybody would if you could.
Maybe you get to in this one.
Maybe you get
I'd be
to.
all about it. And so again, it's one of those things. I realize all of these games are like fairly like these big bombastic events. I mean, really, all of ours that we've talked about have been these like bigger things happening, these action pieces, I guess, to kick off these games. But really, like, it's just, I don't know. That's just that's what really gets me into one. If it's like the first level starts or the ends or the opening cinematic, and if I just feel like, oh yeah, like this is what I'm getting into, then that's gonna sell me on that game pretty easily. And so that's what that one. It's just, I remember, and again, because it was the first level, and of how many times I replayed Modern Warfare, like, oh, I've played it so many times. It's just, it's a great level. And
I've played it no times.
It just kicks it off and sets the right tone. But that sounds
very cool.
It just makes the whole game, because it's like you got that chase, this quick escape, and really the whole game of Modern Warfare, it takes place in different places. You play as different people. But it's still very fast. Like the events of the game take place within a few days, so you always feel like you're kind of never having a chance to rest.
Right.
And I feel like this opening level does that and kind of like sets that up to be like, hey, don't think you're going to get
ready
like,
to
these peaceful
run.
moments. Yeah, exactly.
Hope your cardio is good.
Exactly. So that's why Crew Expendable from Modern Warfare is
very cool.
My top. Well, that wraps up our list of some of our favorite introductions to the video games that we've played. We would love to hear some of yours as well. So send us an email, teamchatpockets@gmail.com. Comment below on the video or audio of where you're listening. Send us a message or comment on our social media. Discord, we'd love to hear from you. But before we go, we do have to do our soundtrack spotlight, which Mogan has prepared for us for this week.
So bringing us down from all of that action.
All that action. I got hyped just talking about it.
We're going to really chill everybody out with To Zanarkand from Final Fantasy X's opening intro. So this is composed by Nobuo Uematsu, and that is To Zanarkand, Final Fantasy X OST.
Awesome. From what we listened to a little bit before, as we were prepping for this, it's very peaceful, which is why it will help everyone calm down from this action-packed episode.
Take a nap.
Just chill, just relax.
Maybe get a good cry out, whatever you need to do.
So listen to that after the close of the episode, which is pretty much now. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Team Chat Podcast, everyone. Hope you'll join us again next week for another exciting episode on a fun gaming topic. But until then, I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined by Rachel Mogan.
Adios.
We'll see you all next week.